Welcome to Challenging the Norm, his and hers look at life and business, hosted by Paul Snell and Lindsey Burden. This podcast is designed for solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and business owners redefining success on their terms. Each episode dives into the topics that truly matter, offering a blend of candid discussion, practical insights, all delivered with a sense of humour. We reality check the latest business trends while offering a fresh perspective that challenges conventional thinking. Paul partners with business leaders, leveraging cutting-edge neuroscience to demonstrate how people-centered strategies drive transformational success. While Lindsey brings her unique approach to business coaching, empowering ambitious business owners to achieve financial abundance and a lifestyle rich in time and joy, all without compromising what matters most. Together, we are challenging the norm. So grab a coffee or your beverage of choice and join us as we explore the art of creating a life and business you love.
Good afternoon, everybody. We are so pleased to be back on doing our podcast, the next episode. I think this is only episode 2 of 2026. I might be wrong, Lindsey, so don't quote me on that. But Lindsey, good to see you, good to hear you. For the people that just listen, I get to see Lindsey when we do this, which is always good. And Lindsey can make all the different gesticulations she likes. You can't hear it. So on that basis, we encourage you to watch. But Lindsey, you've got a bee in your bonnet.
I have, Paul, but it's a good bee, I like to think. I wonder, we don't get practical very, very often. We usually do concept, mindset, and then it happens that we get quite practical within that. But I want to go full-blown practical today.
Good.
I want to talk about pipelines, the misunderstanding of what a pipeline is, and how we need to become friends with our pipeline, and how when we do, it becomes easier to grow our businesses. So that's what I'd like to talk about, Paul, if we may, today.
I think that's a marvellous idea. I'm always up for leaning into a bit of practical, not often known for that, but I do love it. And this pipeline thing is quite fascinating. I know lots of people go, oh, it's a bit dull. It's just a list of potential customers. It's so much more than that. In fact, one of the first things that come to mind when we were talking about it was how people get a bit afraid of a pipeline, because it lists out all the deals that could go wrong.
Yeah.
It's so much more than that, isn't it, Lindsey? We're not talking about a little spreadsheet full of potential orders that you can either tick as won or cross as lost. It's so much more than that, isn't it?
It is. And I think one of the biggest challenges people have around pipelines, and when I say challenges, I mean their mindset, how they feel, how they use it, what difference it makes to their business. I think one of the big reasons is because there is this sort of idea that someone is only in your pipeline when you've sent them a proposal, for example.
Yep.
When they've muted that they might be interested, suddenly they're in your pipeline. And that is so far from the truth. Because, if you were watching, you'd know I'm now putting my arms out as far as I possibly can, because that's probably the length of the pipeline. And for some, it can be twice as long as that. Mm. So it's understanding that the pipeline itself starts almost from that first connection, that first point of meeting someone, which could be a networking event, couldn't it? And you've met someone, you think, oh, they're quite interesting, or, oh, they could be, I can see how we might be able to work together. Or you might be, which is what I do sometimes, Paul, but don't tell anyone. I bounce up and down and go, oh my goodness, I want to work with them because they're just awesome. And I can see how awesome their business is going to be. And I have to rein that in. But for all sorts of reasons, they enter your pipeline, but they're entering it because you've been networking, or they've entered it because you've met them on LinkedIn, or they've entered it because they've come through your website. There's so many ways of them coming into your pipeline.
So brilliant. So let's get a little bit practical. What qualifies? What is the event that qualifies you going from a name that you may have come across to a name on a pipeline? What qualifies that shift?
Well, And there lies the next really big challenge for people, because it happens at various different points. So somebody might have, I'm trying to give a really good example because it's really hard, Paul, because it depends on your business type, on your model, how you work, how they come through. So for example, excuse me, if someone came through my website, for example, I've never met them, don't know who they are from Adam. They've come through, they've landed on my website, they're having a lovely time on my website, and decide to either grab my freebie, my download, my workbook, or book a call. Both of those take them into my CRM. Both of those ways. So they've moved straight away into my CRM. But at the moment, for me, there's still a connection, because there is no connection. I don't know them, they don't really know me. And this is my opportunity now, because they're in the CRM, they're on the email list. I'm going to start to nurture and develop that relationship. Now, the reason it's so complicated, and there are so many nuances to it, to use your lovely word that you haven't used, I don't think, this year,
Nope.
Is like, I can give you an example of a woman that I'm working with right now who's been on my mailing list for 2 years. Okay, that's one hell of a pipeline. And in that time, I've done some work with her. In that time, I've bumped into her. I mean, she happens to be a local person. In that time, various different points, I might have called her, might have had a conversation with her. She might have been at a networking I was at. There have been numerous touch points. 2 years.
Yeah. I think I think that's a really good point here. And there are many more to come, but I think we need to clarify timescales on pipeline. It isn't about one touch. Do they want to buy? Don't they want to buy? It's over in a couple of days or minutes. It really is a function of developing relationship. I think we have to define what pipeline really means. What does pipeline really mean? I think for a lot of people, and understandably so, pipeline can mean, it's a list of potential orders that I've quoted that I will win or I won't win, and a pipeline is I tick it for win, I put a cross next to it if I don't. Yeah. It can, for absolutely valid reasons, I could understand people getting to that point of that's how they think pipeline is. What I think we need to do is perhaps dispel that a wee bit and define. I started saying, so what's the entry point? That actually, there's a bit before that. What does pipeline really mean? What is a pipeline?
And again, I'm thinking this is where it gets really complicated. For me, a pipeline is it's the conversations that I have. It's all about connection. It's all about conversation. It's all about building know, like, and trust, because that works for my business. So it doesn't matter how they come into it. They're then going to get to a part where I will begin to develop that relationship with them. And depending on how well I know them and how they've come in, that might include emails, telephone calls, me seeing them at networking. It might just be they are on my email list and they are going to receive my one email a week, come hell or high water.
So what you're saying then, pipeline it could be short, right? There's nothing wrong with having a really hot inquiry who said, you know what, Lindsey, I've worked with Joe Blogs down the road. They've worked with you before. I just want to work with you. What do we need to do to make that happen, right? So it can be a very short thing, not overly common in my experience. It's much more relevant that pipeline is all about a relationship building activity, that with the intention that there is some business transacted between you and that person or that company, right? But it begins with a relationship. And you made a point, actually, you just to know, like, and trust. I think it's fair to say that people like us coaches, we are particular about who we work with, right? We don't work with any.
Well, we have to be.
Yeah, we have to be, right? We have to be able to connect. We have to be able to understand each other, know the value we're going to bring. So the know, like, and trust bit is important within the pipeline development, right? And it might just be someone's responded, Lindsey, and gone, great, Lindsey, I'd love to have a conversation with you about what you do. We sort of describe that as a discovery call that we can jump on. And in that discovery call, pretty much as it describes itself, it is what it says on the tin. We we find out about them, they find out about us, we work out if we connect, are they the right sort of fit, are we the right sort of fit for them? That moves them along a pipeline. But until we do that, we actually don't even know if we're going to be able to work with them, but they're still in the pipeline.
No, and I have had some really short pipelines, but they still go into my pipeline.
Yep.
So even if it's really, really short, so I've literally met them, they want to work with me. I've said that, and this has happened even recently, and they went, I just want to work with you. So-and-so says I need to, I'm like, whoa, we need to work all this out. So even then, so it's very, very short. They're still on my email list.
Yeah.
I'm still going to continue nurturing that relationship. So for me, you asked what is a pipeline. I believe a pipeline is a number of touch points, if you like, along a line in which you build a relationship. And at times on that, you will make an offer. You certainly would in my world. I don't just put them on there and hope that they'll come out and one day ring me and go, can I work with you, Lindsey? I've got to tell them what I'm doing. I've got to develop that. So for me, it's about taking them on a journey with you, and there are going to be a number of touch points. But I think what's really wonderful about a pipeline is the minute they're on my CRM, they become a really valuable person to me.
Yeah.
In a number of ways. So it might be they're really valuable because they are working with similar client base. So they're going to be a great referrer for me.
Yeah.
It might be that they're just a brilliant connection for me because my clients might need them. I might need them. They just might be really great business people that I want to stay in touch with. They happen to come into the system once they're on the CRM. That CRM makes sure that I do the job.
Yeah.
Now, the job being, it'll tell me, Lindsey, you've not spoken to this person for 3 months. You really should touch base with them.
Yeah.
So for me, the pipeline shouldn't be like you get their email, you send them 3 things, they buy another thing, that's a funnel.
Yeah.
That is not a pipeline. Now, funnels are part of it, maybe, you could say they're very, very similar, but I see them as very different. And the reason I say that is when my clients come to me, I go, who's in the pipeline? And I hear it time and time again. Nobody's in my pipeline. Who did you speak to last week? Oh, I had a really conversation with them. Okay, they're in your pipeline.
Yeah.
You just can't see it.
Yeah.
You just don't think that they need to be in your pipeline because you haven't put a suggestion, an offer, a product in front of them.
Yeah.
In your pipeline.
Yeah. And I think you're painting the picture perfectly here. To get away from this connotation that pipelines are these very one-dimensional spreadsheets of list of potentials. I love this idea, or this this vision of pipeline where it's relationship building. I think it's so critical to get that. If you get anything, get this idea pipelines are about relationships.
Yeah.
Because in certainly in our world, and to be fair, in most worlds, maybe with the exception of an e-shop on a website, most people want to know who you are. Most people want to know, can you provide the benefit to them? Nobody sits there going, well, I've got lots of money, let's just pay for something I don't know anything about. People want to understand the value that you can bring to them. And that's relationship building. There is no shortcut to that, because we live in a world and a time where you can get as much information as you like in a click of a finger. So the idea that we can differentiate based on information is very much more limited than it's ever been.
And you said, possibly with the exception of retail. And I would pull you up on that. You are obviously not on as many emailing lists as I am. These retailers are good. They are now looking to build a relationship. They send me an email and say, hey, we think you might be interested in this. The algorithm's working and all of that kind of thing, putting all of that aside to go, hey, we thought you'd be interested. They now do this, or this is a new offer, or this is something we're thinking about doing. Would you be interested? It makes me feel like they really have got to know me. It is them having a conversation with me. Oh, you left this in your basket, but it's a really good, I love this one. We see you've left this in your basket. You've got really good taste, Lindsey. Yeah. Yes, I have. Now, what did I leave in the basket? It's conversational. So even the retailers have clocked onto this or clicked onto this. They're doing it.
Yes and no. And there's nothing
What's
like
the no?
there's nothing like being on the fence, is there? I think, and we're not going to get distracted by this, by the way. Otherwise, we would, you and I. I think there's a balance to be had. In other words, it is good, and I can see the value in an online e-tailer messaging me and going, "Oh, do you know you could buy one of these things?" I'm being a bit basic with that, right? Based on what you bought before, based on what you've looked at, blah, blah, blah.
You're not on these mailing lists, are you?
No, with very good reason. And so I think the difference for me there is that type of connection is way more automated and way more vanilla. Whereas the type of connection we're talking about, and that a lot of people are going to face, is it is relational. You go, I can't, as much as I might love to debate with an algorithm, it's unlikely to get me very far. But it is good to be able to pick up the phone and go, do you know what, Lindsey, we haven't spoken for a while. You know, we spoke a year ago on X, Y, and Z, and it'd be lovely to catch up. That's a very different approach for me when it comes to building a relationship. But that is still pipeline business.
Yeah, and the other thing I would like to bring into, if I may, is I talk a lot to my clients about outreach, daily outreach. And I talk about outreach, you know, we can use it for sales, marketing. There is passive and there is active. So for me, when I send an email one-to-many, that is passive. If I am picking up the telephone to speak to Paul, that is active.
Yeah.
So you can use passive and active around outreach. I would say predominantly what we're talking about there for the retailer, that is very passive. It is one-to-millions that they're doing. Where we are talking about that one-to-one, which is very active. And with my clients, I talk about active outreach. So what can you do? So some examples to help people. For me, active outreach, I have been to networking this morning. That's active outreach. I've had 3 one-to-ones with people. That's very deliberate. Very, you know, I've made 2 brilliant connections and caught up with a client as it happened, which was hysterical. So that for me is active outreach. I could tick that as done today. Yeah. Another example would be spending time on LinkedIn, commenting. And I don't mean great post. I mean reading the post, understanding it, and making a comment that has value, that you are adding to the conversation. It might be that today is not a commenting day on LinkedIn. Today might be a day when you're in your direct messages. So who messaged you? Who do you need to reply to? Who have you not replied to? Who have you not talked to for 6 months?
Yeah.
So it's those kind of activities. Now, the minute I understood this daily outreach malarkey and made it, even if I only did 10 minutes, things changed in my business.
Yeah.
And the bedfellow of that outreach is a really good CRM. Yeah. A CRM where I can keep the notes, I can keep the details, and a CRM that sends me an action and tells me when I need to reconnect, tells me I put an offer out. Actually, I sort of said, you might be interested. And they went, oh, yeah, I might be interested. Can we have another conversation? Follow it up. Yeah. And my business has grown by making outreach a priority and linking it to a CRM. And that is part of the pipeline conversation. It is part of it. So for me, pipeline is about the people that we bring in. For me, it's bringing into my CRM. Mm-hmm. They might only be on my email list, but we'll put the 2 together. And it's then, what do I do with that person? And I may be connecting and talking to that person for a very long time. That person may come in and work with me, go out, and then come back in. Yeah. It's a pipeline. Unless somebody phones me up and says, Lindsey, I am closing my business, they remain in my pipeline.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, actually. When it comes to pipeline, does anyone ever come off your pipeline?
Yes. I remember talking about them previously and mentioned that I had a client that sadly passed away. That's a very obvious one, where they would no longer be in my pipeline if they've closed their business. That said, closing your business. So I have a client who closed their businesses, 3 businesses, and went back as a consultant into, I almost said into the real world. You know, that other world where people get paid a salary and work 9 to 5 and don't worry about things, which in itself is a lie, but do you know what I mean? They went back to that. She's still in my pipeline.
Yeah.
Because I don't know who she knows what she's doing or who she's talking to.
Yes.
In that pipeline.
So it's fair to say, you know, trying to paint a picture, it's fair to say pipeline isn't always necessarily, or a person in your pipeline isn't always necessarily the person you'll do the business with.
No.
That I think is important to say. Yeah.
So I used to work with a guy, he used to call them his hub people. So in his business, he was very deliberate. He had, I don't know, about 10 business people who it was in the old days when, you know, you took them to lunch and you really schmoozed them and all of that because they were good referrers and introducers for him.
Yeah.
Now, they would still be in his pipeline. They would still be in my pipeline. And I have people like that who are in my pipeline. They're in my pipeline because that's the best way for me to remember to stay in touch with them.
Brilliant.
Because it's a recurring task. Have I spoken to? Have I spoken to? Have I spoken to?
So painting the picture, pipeline is a time issue. I was going to say issue is the wrong word. It's a time function. Right. In most cases, it takes time to move someone through a pipeline. And that motion is about relationship building, either automatically or intentionally with people on a one-to-one. Right. So there is a horizontal process here that goes, they come in and that person, that person is someone who you build relationship with, and it will go along a journey. And what the plan is, the intention is, at some point in that journey, they become a paying client in the simplest possible way, or an introducer to a paying client. That just because they've done business with you once, and that's finished for whatever reason, so if you're a coach, you might finish a program, it doesn't mean they come off your pipeline.
No.
It's just part of a journey.
It is part, and I think what's really and this is where the differentiation comes, I think. The more we talk about it, the clearer the difference between a pipeline and a CR and a pipeline and a funnel is. Yeah. Thank you. I was getting my words muddled. Glad you know what I was trying to say. Because a funnel takes them through a number of steps.
Yes.
It's a campaign where they're either going to buy, download, and then later buy.
Yeah.
You're going to get them to an event, or you're going to have, you want to provide a demo of something to them. It's very deliberate. It is the funnel that will take them from here, possibly from not knowing them at all the way through to they do X.
Yeah.
And what I often find with clients actually is they'll go, oh, but I've got a lead magnet, so it'll take them all the way through a process and a number of emails, and they get to here. And then I go, then what happens to them? They go, well, that's the end of the sequence. That's the end of the funnel. Okay. And is that the end? The end. We always lived happily ever after. But no, that's not the end. And then I would say, but you need to move them on. So for me, I would say if it was in an email, so you've taken them all the way through, that's the end. They haven't bought or have bought or whatever they've done. They've booked a demo, whatever. They then go onto an email list where you would continue to nurture, develop a relationship, and depending on your business model, it might be weekly, fortnightly, or monthly.
Yeah.
Or an alternative to that email bit, air quotes for anyone who's not watching, is they go onto your CRM with a note to follow them up in 3 months.
Yeah.
Pick up the phone in 3 months. I know.
Yep.
Pick up the phone, people. Who knew we could still do that? But we can. So we need to be really careful of funnels, because funnels tend to have a finite start and end. So then what happens? You've done all that work. You might have even paid for ads to get them in. And then what happens to them? The end.
Yeah.
Everyone lives happily ever after. Well, they don't, because there was an end.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, nicely defined. I think I've seen on many occasions the confusion between a funnel and a pipeline. And as you quite rightly point out, funnel being process, funnel being finite. And to me, going through a funnel is simply a small part of a pipeline.
Yeah.
You can come in at the top of a funnel, come out the other end, you've still not bought anything. It doesn't change them being on a pipeline. See, isn't it interesting the value we put into building relationships with people? That's where the intrinsic process is on a pipeline. Building those relationships, building that value over a period of time, having conversations, doing your DMs, whatever it might be, it's still a relationship building process. People buy from people. Even when I talk about
You said that with anger. For goodness sake, people buy from people.
They do. And even when it comes to e-tailers, right? There are e-tailers that people really like, and there's e-tailers that people don't like. And the reason is we start to build a persona around that e-tailer.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's same with client retention. Pipeline is also about client retention.
Yeah.
You have a great time with a client. You transact some business, they get lots of value, and then you never contact them again. And it's like, what? That's a proper mind blow. That is, because you've given them value, they've enjoyed it, and then you've not pursued that relationship. How odd is that?
Put them on your email list, send them a weekly email, job done. It's all going to...
Yeah.
Okay, there's a couple of things that you've really raised for me, Paul. So what we're saying is a pipeline has many different pieces. And depending on your business model, it will have more or less pieces. But at the heart of it is having a conversation, building a relationship, know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
It's also understanding that some may come through your pipeline and not buy for a very long time.
Yeah.
Some will be on it and never buy from you, but they'll be great introducers, and everything else in between. So we're now starting to build a really strong picture of what a pipeline is. And what's coming to me, Paul, is the biggest challenge that we have in business is that we keep putting flipping names and acronyms on things that just blow people's minds and they can't get their heads around it. So if I said to a client, what's your pipeline? They go, oh, I haven't got one. I don't know what do I need? What's a pipeline? And panic amounts. And all it is ultimately at the heart of a pipeline is a CRM. How you manage it, how you nurture the relationships, and everything else is sort of around that. But ultimately, it's about having a conversation. So maybe it's about, if you're really struggling right now with a pipeline and what does it look like, just think about, who do you want to have conversations with? Who do you need to continue to have conversations with? Who do you want to have conversations with?
And exactly. And it, in a funny sort of way, it takes the pressure off. Because this perception that pipeline is this list of opportunities that you'll win or you'll not win, that creates pressure. That creates, I've got these things on my pipeline, but what if half of them don't come in, blah, 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 blah. It creates pressure. Whereas if it's simply perceived as something that you're going to do and enjoy doing, by building relationship, by adding value, by moving things forward, that's a much more pleasurable prospect than go, well, I'm going to win or lose this.
The other thing I just wanted to bring into play is I have a client who, when I met, she definitely did not have a pipeline. She probably had some names, she had some people, but we needed to get a little bit more strategic. So without even using the word pipeline, we needed to get more strategic about how she built relationships with those people, how she brought more or new people in to have conversations with and build relationships with. When I speak to her now, I can say to her, what's in your pipeline? Now, when I say to her, what's in your pipeline, we're talking very definitively, because her work is project-based. She'll go, I'm just waiting for this information from them. I'm waiting on that. I've told them if they want me to finish this project by X, they need to get a move on because I've got this one starting. And for her, almost, if you like, the almost end of her pipeline is when they've said yes to working with her. And then there's a few more steps. They might have to sign a contract, they pay a deposit, when are they starting? And so they do a little bit of moving up and down the pipeline until those kind of things are all sorted out. When I say to her, what's in your pipeline? We're talking about that piece there.
Yeah.
And then because of the way she works, there is another part. And I go, okay, now you've done that project, are they going to go onto your retainer here? So they move into another section. Now, I've been working with her about 2 years. Nothing in the pipeline when I first met her. It was feast and famine. I've got no clients, I've got to go. And it was hustle, hustle, hustle.
Yeah.
She's been networking, showing up on LinkedIn. She's been doing a little bit more networking beyond what she was doing in Only with me. She's been bravely doing a few more talks and putting herself out there. So now she always has, so she has those in the pipeline, that piece that we're talking about.
Yeah.
She's also got people before that have gone, yeah, I think I do need that. Actually, yes, I do. And I think I want to work. I just need to get my head around it. People before that, they're going, yes, I'm not ready yet, though. People before that, they're going, oh, yeah, at some point I'm going to need you.
Yeah.
So they're all in there. And now what's happening, because she did the work, they're all moving along the pipeline beautifully. They're all, not smoothly, I might add, because they did. Now they've gone again. Oh, no, they're back again. That's life. And that's the way business works.
It is. But you make a really good point, and this is worth mentioning too, that it can feel at times, and this word used of the hustle, right? It can be exhausting. The reason we call it, or it's been called hustle, is because it's a constant dodgy maneuvering, moving around, trying to get things done. It never ends. You never stop.
Yeah.
But I love this idea that you're describing having a pipeline as a mechanism to massively reduce this idea of hustle.
Yeah, it is.
But I think it's really important. You know, I know so many people who, because of my favorite thing, social media, tells you that you can have this side hustle, this word hustle, 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 that gives the impression that you're on a constant go. Whereas when you bring some structure to it in the pipeline description that you've given, it stops being hustle, hustle, hustle and starts being very targeted, very managed, very effective. It takes away the stress of, oh, I'm going to have to work 18 hours a day, all weekends, just hustle enough business up. I think it's a significant thing that otherwise too many people sit down and go, I can't do this hustle culture. Well, then don't.
I definitely do not advocate for it, nor do you. So we're not in the hustle. What I would say as well is when you do this work, in the way that, you know, this outreach, this networking, this showing up, this being present in any way, shape or form that works for you and your business, and no model will be the same, you start to become a magnet for your ideal client.
Yeah.
And this is what's happened to this particular client. She's become the magnet for her right client.
Yeah.
Because people are talking about her in the right way. People are going, oh, you need that, you need to speak too. So she has created these ambassadors, if you like, for her business. She is very clear on what she does, who she's for. And that's now a really strong message that is being heard, seen, you know, delivered and remembered.
Yeah.
So then she becomes a magnet for those clients that she wants to work with. So some will come onto her doorstep. She doesn't know she will know where they've come from because she'll ask. But,
Yeah.
And that's because she's done the work. She's shown up.
100%. So summarize for me before we finish this one. Summarize what a pipeline is and why we have it.
A pipeline, unlike our funnel, has no end.
Yeah.
It is, if you seriously want to build relationships and have conversations with people, this is how you do it, through a number of touch points, and those touch points will be ever changing. They might be completely different in a year. It is the way that you develop the relationship. It is not necessarily linked to a sale, because it's not always about the sale. It is about creating your advocates, your ambassadors.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that when we have our version of a pipeline, and like we say, there are so many versions, so many ways, but when you hit on your version, what you'll notice is suddenly it's easier to do a bit of outreach.
Yeah.
You have people to talk to because you started a conversation with somebody at networking and you put them on the list. At the very least, I've got a client right now that's using a spreadsheet. At the very least, you have a spreadsheet, you have a name, where you met them, what you're talking about, where they are, is this a connection? Is this a potential? What's the next step? When do I contact them? So you could do it on a spreadsheet. But for me, do you know what I think it is? In real simple terms, a pipeline, it's the steps that you will take and continue to take, whether they become a client, are never a client, or become advocates.
Yeah.
It makes it easier to take the steps, and you get to define those steps, and you'll add more, you'll take some out, because that's the way business should be. But it'll help you show up.
Perfect. Perfectly defined. I'm hoping, and I think we have, allowed the listeners to get a different perspective on pipeline, to understand that it's actually a fun thing, right? It's really enjoyable. It's not
I've made one client, Paul, I have to tell you, she didn't get it, she didn't understand it, and now she's seeing it as the heart of her business.
There you go.
Makes her smile.
There you go. So pipelines are fun. Pipelines are productive. Pipelines actually are central. So if anything, Lindsey, I hope people have got this idea that it is much more than simply a piece of paper which says you're either going to get an order or you're not. Yeah. It's so much more than that. And do it right, and I'll sort of finish on this. Do it right, it becomes self-fulfilling. Yes. It becomes something that you can really lean on. You have enough information to say, I can see where this is all going. Yes. I have visibility of where things are going to happen. That's so important in a business.
And if you can see a gap coming up, you can fill that gap, because you'll know where everyone is in your pipeline. You'll know who you need to talk to.
Yeah, perfect. Well, on that note, we are yet again at the end of an episode.
Wow.
Much as we could carry on talking forever. It has been a good practical episode. I think we've shared some really good, and certainly you have shared some really good ideas. I also think we've shared a change in mindset and perspective on pipeline, how people see it, what it really is, as opposed to what often we think it is. Yeah. So all round, big tick, loved it, and can't wait for the next one.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Paul. And as you say, I hope everyone has enjoyed this episode.